We have a lot to talk about in this video, and believe it or not, the title of this video is not in fact clickbait. Onision recently purchased some more Wetlands, and I'm not kidding. He also just recently paid off his entire house that I think has been living there for almost 2 years, and he's already managed to somehow pay off the entire house of over $300,000, which just goes to show that, you know, Greg is not... He's not as broke as he has tried to claim that he is, at least on the internet. Because there's not a lot of people like you and me who can buy a house and in 2 years pay off $300,000. Most people just can't do that. But what you're really concerned about is the new wetland that he purchased. Well, here's the document. All that blue you see is land that Greg himself purchased, which is cool, you know? There's nothing wrong with buying your own land. But Onision, since I know that you watch my videos, let me give you some friendly advice. This land that you just purchased in the highlighted blue, the reason you got it for only $20,000 is because not only is it cheap, it's only cheap because it's a wetland. The whole area is a wetland. If you look at this at the map, you'll see that there's what's called Gar Creek. There's a creek that literally runs through the middle of the land that you purchased. That in itself is a wetland. This is it's wet and marshy, and when it rains, it's gonna get really, really mushy. But this is where my advice comes in. Number one, don't block the creek, because that creek is connected to another small, gigantic, kind of a small lake, and is connected to the big area lake or slash wetland. And if you block that creek, it's going to actually cause major flooding damage to not only the wetland that you purchased, but also it could damage your house and other places around the vicinity. But not only that, you're cutting access off to other animal habitats, different species of fish, assuming there's fish in the water, I don't know. But do not, I stress, do not block that creek, whatever you do, Onision, or the state is going to come after you yet again. And despite you know, purchasing this land, you're also, again, you have a buffer. Meaning that you can't push things out past that blue line, okay? You can't do that. Don't block the creek, but most of all, be careful what you build on, because you're not supposed to technically build on wetlands, and if you do, you gotta get really special permits, and if you do, then you're gonna get fined if you don't get those special permits. But since you bought the land so cheap, let's just assume you're not going to listen to anything I say, and you're gonna do the worst to this land, and you are probably going to block the creek off in some weird, unenvironmental way, which is going to affect the ecosystem in that small, specific area. But I gotta be honest, you know, if you do block the creek and it does a bunch of flooding, after all, we do live in the state that has the most amount of water and rain. And let me guess, when you flood out your bottom basement, you're gonna go to the people who sold you the house and say that this house was flood-proof or something like that, and try to blame the homeowners who sold you the house for a problem that you caused because you blocked a creek and have no understanding of how waterways work when you block waterways, because water's gonna find a way around something if you dam it. Water is not something to mess around with. It's smarter than you, Greg. A lot smarter. Now this next part is really interesting, so tune your ears on. In the start of 2018, when the whole IRS tax evasion, tax fraud thing happened with Onision, and he owes $500,000 to the IRS for all of his false tax deductions that he took, including his divorce and parts of his house and wedding rings and just like things that you can't deduct from a business standpoint. In 2018, he created an LLC. This is a company. Now, I knew about this for quite some time. The difference is when the company started, it was active. But only recently has the active status of his LLC a company that I'm assuming was created, that he was advised to create by his CPA, because if you have your own LLC or company, you can get much bigger tax write-offs, and that if you're in a heap of trouble financially because you didn't do your taxes right, by creating, and you owe the IRS a lot of money, you can create an LLC, and thus you can swindle around the whole tax stuff and get fees and stuff that you owe reduced a lot more if you have your own company, because the assets and things that you include in the LLC are much bigger than somebody who's just self-employed and owes the IRS money. I'm not a tax person per se, but that's as far as I understand it. You get a lot better deductions in an LLC. So he has this LLC created in 2018. It was active at the time, which is why I never covered it, but only recently has that status of his LLC changed to delinquent. Now that doesn't mean that the business has failed or anything like that. It just means that it is expired, but that if he owes a certain amount of money still, and he's for whatever LLC or taxes, that he still has to owe that despite it being delinquent. But the fact that it's expired makes me wonder how his IRS stuff is ongoing this month of June. Really starts making me question why this was created, though. Was it an attempt to help with his, tax evasion and tax fraud of not understanding how deductions work? Or is it a conspiracy theory and he's actually somehow trying to, like, I don't know, have an offshore account where he invests money and not be taxed for it? I mean, that's just a conspiracy theory. Don't quote me on that. I'm not claiming that. Just, you know, these types of things, they go through your mind. I have to ask these types of questions because, again, we're dealing with Greg here, Onision. He's not exactly the most honest guy on YouTube, and clearly if he can pay off a $300,000 house in less than 2 years, he's not as financially broke as he claims that he is. And this is where things get a little bit creepy. You see, Onision has changed his legal name, but now he's changing his 2 kids' legal names. Now, I did not know this beforehand. This is what makes it so creepy, okay, is that this is a book, right? Stones of Abigail. This is one of his books. It's a horrible, 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 terribly written book, but there's a character in here, Abigail. There's a character named Chloe. Almost all of his characters' names are somehow relevant to his real life in some way. And I found out that this name change of recent, not only is his husband/wife officially now changing her legal name to, her name was Taylor, she's actually changing it to Jackson Kai, like it's official now. But if you look above to the most 2 other recent name changes, he's changing the legal names of his children, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But the difference is I didn't realize is that I didn't know the 2 names of his kids up until this point. And he has his kid named, well, was named Chloe Abigail. Chloe Abigail. If you've read this book, if you've read any of Onision's book, guess what? Chloe and Abigail have in common. Oh, there is a S-E-X scene in his books, and I find it super weird and super creepy that he would name his children after characters in his books in which he's written naughty things and interactions with. It's why? Why? Like, do you not understand? And I'm glad that you're taking the Abigail out of your kid's name, but Chloe's still in there, which is still a person in these books. And it's weird to me. It's really weird to me. Like, do you not care about your child growing up to be, like, in high school and they find out, oh, my dad's Onision, and then kids at school find this book, then they find out that their kid's named after a character in one of his ultra cringy, weird, perverted books in which people very, very young have S-E-X, you know? Like, what are you thinking? That's like deeming both your children to get bullied later in life by naming them weird-ass characters in your weird-ass books. Did you ever think for a moment that might be a bad decision to make? But essentially, he's changing all of his last names from his A name to Jackson. Jackson, like, most common name. I don't know the significance of why you're doing all these Jackson changes. I don't know if it's because you're trying to run away from the IRS, thinking that if you change your name, you somehow go undercover and the IRS can't find you because you changed your legal name. I don't know, again, that's a conspiracy theory. I'm gonna just start mentioning conspiracy theories when it's just something that goes through my mind, like, maybe this is what he's doing, I don't know. Quite frankly, I'm not too invested in it, but the people who keep sending me these sending me this updated stuff, I'm like, wow. I had no idea about this. You guys do God's work because, quite frankly, I don't have the time to look this in-depth at all of these weird changes that he's constantly doing. I think the most significant thing, though, is him buying land and his LLC going into delinquent status. Now, sometime next week, I'm going to be making this follow-up video because I can't address this in this particular video, but Onision actually made a video about copyright strikes and how he views fair use in him taking down content. That's gonna be sometime for next week. I'm trying to figure out a way to avoid being copyright struck by him because, in case you didn't know, the video that I made last week was taken down by Onision yet again. This is now the 5th time, guys. 5th time he has taken down my video for roughly 2.5 weeks, only for the video to be restored with no court order, and I'm so sick and tired of it that I'm trying to figure out a way to make a response to his video without using his video footage, so I'm going to try just using audio and see how well that works. But there's another YouTuber by the name of FPS Diesel, which if you haven't seen his channel, I recommend you go subscribe to him, because that's just what we do here when we're all plowing on Onision. We're kind of like a tight-knit group of people who all hate the same person, and we all make content Well, FPS Diesel made 2 videos on Onision recently, and he actually challenged Onision to a boxing match, which is hilarious to me. A boxing match for charity, mind you. And what the hey? What's wrong with that? You know, Onision, the guy who a few months ago claimed that I need to donate all of my ad revenue to a charity of his choosing, because I shouldn't be able to make responses to him and be able to make money off of his name or talking about him, despite him doing that with everybody else. But I'm not allowed to do that, and I need to give all my money to charity, says Greg. And now here is Greg denying a charity event, denying a boxing match with another YouTuber, all because when someone challenges you to a boxing match, it is not cowardly to ignore them. In fact, you are being the bigger person. You are being mature to ignore them. Grow up, we are not children. Onision offered to box Shane and wrestle, and it remains open. Winky face. To everyone challenging Onision to a boxing match, the answer is no. Now go make your next 30-minute video on how much better than him that you are. The irony is that you made a video challenging Shane Dawson to a boxing match. So, like, again, the most common reoccurring theme and word that you're always going to get in my videos regarding Greg is, like, self-awareness much? You don't have any. I thought you were a big charitable guy, Greg. I thought you wanted to support charity causes. So what's wrong with, you know, accepting something for a good cause? Plus, you know for a fact that if you box anybody, the amount of publicity that you would get would be astronomical and beneficial to you. It would be so much fun to watch. If you've made it this far into my video, thank you for watching this far. And now, here's the news that you probably really want to hear regarding suing Onision. I've been in contact with several different attorneys that I've called, and the issue that I'm having right now is that I'm trying to find an attorney to represent me who is really good at their job. Because a few attorneys that I've spoken to in regards to pursuing Onision legally, since we are in the same state, he's 1 county over from me, is the fact that the few attorneys that I've spoken to are, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but they're not familiar with how YouTube works. So, like, trying to explain to an attorney how, like, if somebody claims your video versus take down your video. Basically, I need an attorney who understands how YouTube works in regards to DMCA, or at least has an understanding of how YouTube works, or even uses YouTube himself, you know? It's like those, you know, older cops, right? Who's like in their, you know, 60s, right? And like they don't know how to use social media properly on their phones. I'm not trying to diss them or anything, but they're not up to date with like social media and how all this stuff works, and how claimies work on YouTube, how takedown notices work on YouTube, how false DMCAs work on YouTube. And I'm on the search for an attorney who understands that. So if you know anyone, any attorney that deals with copyright law, who is in Washington State, or even somebody outside of state who could represent me legally, my email is linked down below in the description. I am serious about this, because in order for me to get this thing started, what I have to do is I have to give a retainer fee, which varies between $2,500 and $5,000. And I don't give me any money yet. Nothing's happened yet. No GoFundMe's been created, but I need to find the proper attorney before I actually start pursuing, because what I want to happen is I pay a retainer fee, right? And then a motion of ceasing of action is delivered to his door, knocked on his door, and hand given to him by somebody legally representing me, saying, hey, Onision, you need to stop false DMCAing Daniel Solzbach, Repzion. You need to stop DMCAing this person, or else if you don't, there's going to be legal consequences and the case will move forward in actually a full lawsuit. That's how it works. I want to give him the chance to, I want to file a motion saying, cease this behavior, stop it. If you don't stop, it's going to move forward. And I want the best of the best in Washington State in order for this to happen. And I'm serious. I want this to happen. I just need somebody who I can feel like I can trust, but who's also going to do a really good job of representing me in court against this slime ball who has no morals when it comes to false DMCA takedown requests here on YouTube. Secondly, I am searching for someone who is very talented in graphic design, or who is a very skilled artist, and this is paid. If you are somebody who is good at graphic design or being an artist, please send me an example or something of this concept that I have. So you guys have expressed genuine interest in making merchandise, and my merchandise idea is an anti-Onision t-shirt, which you guys have expressed that you guys want from me. That being said, my idea would be like a little cartoony graphic of like me with like a knife with like an onion stabbed in it, or like me with like throwing an onion like across the shirt into a trash can to be representing of, you know, Onision. I can't use Onision's name. I can't use his face. I don't want to use his face. I don't want to be get in trouble like legally by using his trademark or, you know, his face or something like that. I don't want anything like that. It needs to be something clever in design and art, of a little graphic of me throwing an onion in a trash can across the shirt, whatever. It'd be an anti-Onision shirt that you guys have been asking for me to make, and now I actually want to officially make that. So the question is, would you guys actually buy an anti-Onision shirt if I got and paid somebody to design a t-shirt and then started selling anti-Onision merchandise through a t-shirt shop? What do you guys think? Would you actually wear an anti-Onision t-shirt if I got it made? The answer is yes. Then by all means, submit your artwork. You can submit it to my email down below. I'd love to see some concept designs, and if I end up actually using a design that you draw or create, I will pay you $250 for that, and you'll be credited as the artist or graphic designer who helped design my t-shirt. And finally, if you missed my last video that was non-Onision related, I highly recommend you check that out. It's a total of 21 minutes. It's long. It's down below in the description. It's about Jaclyn Hill, makeup line disaster. I've recently started covering beauty guru drama, something that I didn't really know much about until recently. It's a very big and long video, but one that I recommend you don't want to miss because apparently it missed a lot of people's sub boxes from what I was told. Basically, this cheap YouTuber wanted to produce thousands and thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of lipstick, and it turned out to be an abysmal launch with mold and air bubbles and hairs and all this disgusting stuff on their lipstick launch, in which she backpedals and tries to make excuses for why her product is so crappy. So if you want to see that, it's linked down below at the end of this screen. Make sure to click, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching my videos, and I will see you guys next week for another Onion Boy video response.